Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ. Hey there, welcome to another edition of the MemoPod, and I am far healthier and far more awake, far more vibrant than I was in the last MemoPod. I've talked about this shirt before, right? I've worn this for a MemoPod. You've seen this, those of you that are watching and not just listening. This right here that looks like it's a bleach stain on the top of the Star Wars shirt. Like that's the X-Wing fighter, and then it's got looks like a bullet, like a laser beam coming out of it. No, it's bleach from the pool that we used to have, the old house. Bleached it. Anyway, so that's going to annoy you now through the entire episode if you're watching. In fact, a lot of you probably are watching now and saying, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go listen. I need to take something up with the audience here as we begin. I told you last week that it was A, going to be a little bit shorter, and B, it was going to be a little bit more scatterbrained because I was at the end of leading a senior trip. I was going on like virtually no sleep, and I was trying to get that done. It was, I'm acknowledging, I was not on top of my game, and I told you that. And yet it didn't stop some of you. It didn't. Number one, I believe it was my very generous, very kind-hearted, very supportive transcriber who, sending the transcription, said something to the effect of, yikes. I mean, I'm going to tell you that when I got that, I thought, maybe I shouldn't post this. Maybe that's the tip-off. Like she couldn't tell me, this isn't good. Because look, here to help, not here to criticize. So maybe just the yikes was sending me the message. But then I went ahead, maybe against my better judgment, and I went ahead and I posted the thing. Put it out there for everybody. Thankfully, I didn't see subscribers just plummet at that point in time. Though I will say we didn't gain any new subscribers last week. But another longtime supporter, Nicole, sends me an email. Hey, I hope you get some rest. You're looking pretty rough. You know what you all can do? I'm out here giving it my all. I'm doing the best that I can to try to make good things happen. And it just apparently I should have just stayed out of it last week. But anyway, I'm not staying out of it this week because there's so much to talk about. If you are a paid subscriber, I'm talking Beth Moore. Beth Moore in the second half of the episode today. And Beth Moore, by the way, used to be Southern Baptist, now I think maybe Presbyterian. I'm not sure. She made a switch or whatever. I don't know. But I'm not like a big Beth Moore fan. There are people in my life that I know have benefited immensely from Beth Moore's Bible studies and things like that. Women in my life that have benefited, and even men that have enjoyed some of the articles that she's written and things that she's said. So, like, certainly not anti-Beth Moore at all. But Beth Moore and her exodus from the Southern Baptist Convention and the ongoing feud she has with evangelicals online, in social media, particularly about Donald Trump, all of that coming up after the break. I want to give you my thoughts on the latest with the Beth Moore stuff. I'd be interested in all of your thoughts. And I know several of you who are paid subscribers are going to give those to me because you do so virtually every week. I read them all. I respond, I would say, to over 90% of them. And sometimes we have several exchanges. That's one of the things that I really want to develop. And I like it when it's in the comments section. I am personally not as good at the comment section as I am to respond to emails, because email just seems more personal. Sometimes I think in comments you're saying it for the good of everybody, which is great. It's what I want, to get people's takes. But it's one of the things that I encourage free subscribers, man. That's what this is about. Iron sharpening iron. Nobody has a corner on truth. Scripture is truth, and we should test everything against it, including the things that Beth Moore's saying, but also the things that I'm saying about Beth Moore. And so, like, I need that kind of check. I want that kind of check. And I think if I ever stop wanting that, that becomes an issue. So, look, I would love to get your thoughts on the whole thing. Do I have some kind of Beth Moore bias, either pro or con? We'll get to that second half. But let me just kind of, now that the first caucus is done, the first primary is done on the Republican side, let's just kind of address the lay of the land. Because the truth of the matter is, several of you know how I feel about Donald Trump, and several of you feel similarly to me about Donald Trump. Others of you may be a little bit more hostile towards him and his candidacy. You would consider yourselves never Trump, but a virulent style of never Trump. Others of you, lesser of the two evils kind of people. Others of you are big-time Trump supporters. And I know we've got that eclectic array across the board. So, we are now post-Iowa caucuses, post-New Hampshire, and everything is playing out exactly like the smart money always said that it would. And I need to acknowledge that I was not in the camp of the smart money. I did not see it playing out like this. I didn't think it would. What we have found is that the MAGA wing, the Make America Great Again, the Trump wing of the Republican Party is not a wing. It's not. I thought that it was. I thought you had Trump's diehard supporters, but then you still had the conservative base of the Republican Party, and that conservative base was not sold out in majority to Donald Trump. And I thought it's weird that that's not being reflected in the polls, but we've all seen elections enough now to know that you can't always trust the polls. So I anticipated a DeSantis win in Iowa. I even thought there was an off chance he could win New Hampshire and be the front runner going into South Carolina. Then Nikki Haley started surging in New Hampshire, so then I started thinking, okay, you may see a DeSantis win in Iowa, which I truly believed was going to happen, and then a win for Nikki Haley, maybe squeaks one out in New Hampshire, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump's going to start showing up to debates. And if Donald Trump starts showing up to debates, I think all bets are off. I think now you can look back and say it was a brilliant campaign strategy to run away and hide in the campaign, or I'm sorry, in the debates. I don't like it. I think that it's cowardly, and I think that Donald Trump thought it was cowardly when Joe Biden and others were ducking debates with him. But doesn't mean it wasn't a smart political move. When you have a base that is willing to give you a pass on that, why show up and risk it, especially when you know your base is over 50% of the party? And that goes back to what I was saying. The MAGA wing is not a wing. It's the entire Republican plane. There are now, plane is in like aircraft that has wings. Just making sure I wasn't talking about like the planes. But you have a Republican Party now that is the Donald Trump party, and there are wings of that party. Like, I'm in a wing, I guess, of that party. I don't even really like to associate or affiliate or consider myself or label myself a Republican, because there are so few Republicans these days that I really want to be in any way, shape, or form tied to. And I'm not trying to say that to be egotistical or try to be... don't get me wrong. I am not saying that because I'm leaning more towards Democrats in any of those cases. No, I certainly don't want to be associated with that political party. But associating myself with Donald Trump's Republican Party, I don't really want to do that. I'm not really going to do that. But I thought there were a lot more people like me than what there are. Yeah, it's a little lonely, but the reality is the reality. I mean, DeSantis's performance in Iowa was shocking to me. I mean, his campaign risked it all in Iowa. It went all in. He went to all of the counties. He got the endorsement of Iowa's very popular governor. He got Bob Vanderplatz. He had Steve Deace. He had all of the makings of an Iowa victory. And it didn't happen. And so what you have there is the realization that the country's most accomplished conservative governor is not going anywhere. And this is what, if you go back into the archives, go back into 2016, this is what I had said, and this isn't an I told you so, because many of you don't care. A lot of people don't care. But this is what my concern always was with the Trump movement, that Donald Trump would come to split the conservative movement, and the Republican Party would cease being the party where you advance conservative values, and instead it becomes a populist party. And I really think that's where we are. And you can say, yes, but Donald Trump, he advanced all of these conservative things. He ended Roe v. Wade and all of that. Yeah, good judicial picks. They were not Trump's initial picks. They were the Federalist Society that Donald Trump took a pledge that he would appoint that list of justices, which thankfully he kept his word and did those things. But you start compiling the things that Donald Trump did, whether it's debt or whether it's, go down the laundry list, the idea that conservatism advanced tremendously under Donald Trump is just not true. So that by itself, you look at transgenders for Trump, you look at LGBT for Trump, you look at Donald Trump blaming pro-lifers for the loss of the midterm elections when it was Trump-endorsed candidates that lost. Donald Trump is not a conservative, and he's not going to go to war for conservatism. Donald Trump is a Trumpian, and he will go to war for Donald Trump and Donald Trump's legacy. And when that meshes with doing something that conservatives like, outstanding. But when it doesn't, there's no loyalty to the movement there. And if the legacy of Donald Trump depends upon him selling out conservatives and conservatism, I cannot understand how anyone would honestly believe that it wouldn't happen. So that's what I'm looking at and saying, this is what I was always afraid was going to happen, and it has happened. And I don't know really what is going to come of all of this. I just know that the Republican Party is now the Donald Trump Party. And you saw that after New Hampshire, because Nikki Haley there, she had gone all in on New Hampshire. And I think her campaign is all but extinguished at this point in time. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, who is out. He's thrown his full support behind Donald Trump, which a lot of people thought he would. DeSantis has given his support to Donald Trump. You've got the entire Republican establishment now that is supporting Donald Trump, whether it's Lindsey Graham or it's Ted Cruz or Marsha Blackburn, Marco Rubio, former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. You've got current Speaker Mike Johnson. You've got the Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Tom Cotton, Rick Scott, Josh Hawley. All of these folks, the Republican establishment, is behind Donald Trump. And they're telling all Republican voters in the primary's over. They've been saying it, many of them, for months now. We don't need to have a primary. Donald Trump's the guy. Let's get on about the business of defeating Joe Biden. You go to the commentariat, and you've got people like Charlie Kirk, who fancies himself a kingmaker. And he just flat out mocks the conservatives like me that thought it was time to move beyond Donald Trump. Here's his tweet after the Iowa win. Trump wins, in all caps. I was told DeSantis and Nikki were going to shock the world. Over $250 million wasted. Now let's end this charade and move on to the general. This charade? Man, it's not a charade to a lot of us. And I don't know if Charlie Kirk and other people like him, Trump supporters, think that that is real enticing as a message for a significant number of us conservatives who our convictions told us it's better than to run back another Trump-Biden matchup. I get that Charlie Kirk believes he always has the answers. I understand that self-confidence is the way that you make it in the business that Charlie Kirk is in. But I think that somebody needs to clue the diehard Trumpians into the fact that you all are insulting, not you all, I shouldn't say that because many aren't, but folks like Charlie Kirk, you are insulting the very people that Trump is going to need if he's going to win in November. I look at Dr. Abby Johnson. Abby Johnson, she's the former Planned Parenthood nurse that became pro-life, was in the movie Unplanned. Okay, that Abby Johnson. This is what she said after the Iowa caucuses. Instead of nominating the guy who turned a purple state, Florida, red, who flipped blue counties to red, like winning Miami-Dade, Ron DeSantis did. Instead of nominating that guy, let's nominate the guy who lost to a dementia patient. Look, you can call that sour grapes if you want to call it sour grapes. And maybe it is. Maybe it is silly that I and people like Abby Johnson and others ever thought that once Trump declared his candidacy that any alternative candidate was going to have a chance. Maybe that was silly, but many of us did believe that to be the case. And we thought that there were plenty of others who believed like us. And many of us are sitting here dumbfounded that, in my estimation, Republicans had an opportunity to nominate a game changer who actually accomplished things, like Abby Johnson was saying. And instead, the spirit of revenge is what's dominating. And that's, to me, what it is. The media wanted Donald Trump. The left wanted Donald Trump. MAGA wants Donald Trump. And the spirit of revenge, and we got to get back at the left, and this is Trump's turn to exact vengeance. That's what dominates our politics, and that's what now dominates the Republican Party. And if you don't think that that's the case, did you see what Donald Trump said after his win in Iowa? This was the message. When it was announced that Asa Hutchinson, former governor in Arkansas who was running for president, got 82 total votes. 82. Here's what Donald Trump says. After winning the Iowa caucuses, this is the presidential remark. Quote, I call him Ada, not Asa, because of certain reasons or others, but sometimes it's necessary to talk badly about those that for no reason other than politics speak badly about you. Okay. That's where the Republican Party wants to go, and it has been for some time now. I don't get it. I will never get it. But I don't really have to. We are now headed towards the octogenarian grudge match part 2. Even though I honestly don't think Joe Biden will be the nominee. I don't. I think that he's going to win enough delegates so that RFK cannot be. He will win the primaries, but then between the primaries and him getting enough delegates and the convention, the Democrats will suddenly discover that he has some sort of condition and can't continue on, and they will choose who they want, whether it's Hillary or whether it's Michelle Obama or whether it's Gavin Newsom. It'll be somebody like that. It's not going to be Kamala, but I don't expect necessarily to see Joe Biden, but it is going to be Donald Trump, and that's what the left wanted. They wanted 2024 to be a referendum on Donald Trump. It's how they won in 2020, and it's how they plan on winning in 2024. It's what they had to have after a disastrous 4 years with Joe Biden, and they got it because it's not just the left that wanted Donald Trump. It's not just the media that wanted Donald Trump. The Republican electorate apparently wants Donald Trump. and time's going to tell who it is that miscalculated. You can let me know your thoughts, send it my way. Peter@peterheck.com. That is peter@peterheck.com. Would love to hear from you. Or, of course, you can comment below, right down there, your thoughts on this primary and the way it's shaped up on the Republican Party. You can also let me know if I'm looking pretty rough, or if you were staring, if you were watching. Or is it there? Yeah, I can't do this backwards. If you're staring at that little bleach stain right there, you can let me know about that as well. But those of you who are free subscribers, I gotta leave you here. I would love your take on the Beth Moore stuff, because I just got a real problem with the way that this is all continuing to play out, and the bickering amongst evangelical Christians, the bickering with Beth Moore, that she provokes, and sometimes that is provoked in her, the way it continues to play out on social media. Take it off the streets of social media. I want to get into this, and I want to get your thoughts. Those of you that are paid subscribers, stay tuned. Those of you that are free, I'll see you next week.
The Memo with Peter Heck.
Please patronize and thank all the sponsors of the Heck podcast, including McGonigal's Buick GMC, Terrell's Auto Service, Norris Insurance, Stevens Machine, Creative Financial Center, Indiana Right to Life, Tri-Green Tractor, the Indiana Family Institute, Hartman Family Farms, Liberty Financial Group, the Wyman Group, and J. Watson Creations.
Hey there, welcome back to the Memo Pod. Great to have you with us, and I hope that you are checking out the website peterheck.com, but also I hope that you are checking out our friends at Creative Financial Design. Let them know how much their support of this MemoPod means to you, and you do that by contacting them and thanking them, but also looking to making them your financial advisors. This is like Dave Ramsey, your own personal Dave Ramsey that you can contact at any time. And also they can do values-based investing with you and help you get your financial investments, your future retirement planning and all of that, to get it out of the companies, the mutual funds that are supporting causes that you don't believe in. That's what Creative Financial Design does. So check them out there. There's the link in the email that I sent you, and be sure to thank them and let them know. And even if it's just for a needs analysis, even if it's just to send them a thank you for supporting it, please consider doing that. It helps us immensely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Beth Moore. Again, I don't have a dog in this fight, okay? I'm not a follower of Beth Moore, and I'm not a Southern Baptist. I obviously, because I am online and because I've got the Twitter account and because I follow a lot of Christian accounts, many of whom are Southern Baptists, I am not ignorant of the very public exodus that Beth Moore staged when she left the Southern Baptist Convention. It happened last year. I'm not a follower of Moore. I'm not a Southern Baptist. Okay? Again, I don't have any problem with Beth Moore. Beth Moore has written a lot of Bible studies that have benefited a lot of people. A lot of women have grown closer, and I would say probably men too, either directly or indirectly, have grown closer in their relationship with Christ because of the work that God has done, I should say, through Beth Moore. So I, in no way, shape, or form, am anti-Beth Moore. Now, doesn't mean I condone everything that Beth Moore has done and said. And one of the things that is really frosting me right now is the doctrinal and political squabbles that Beth Moore and her opponents, Christians, all of them, the squabbles that have turned into this salacious social media spectacle that has gone on now for over a year. It's another reason why I think that social media is the devil's playpen. I know that there is a great deal of acrimony between Moore and many of the more conservative voices of the Southern Baptist Convention. I know that. And yet, for some reason, I always hope against hope. I always have this burning wish that discretion would prove the better part of valor for a lot of Christian people, and that they would learn not to continue stirring the pot just for the sake of riling up their rivals out on social media. I don't think that the unbelieving world needs to be front row center for inner Christianity squabbles. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's biblical. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's winsome. And I in no way, shape, or form, other than stroking egos, do I see the point. And I'm not just saying Beth Moore's ego, the people that go at her and stir the pot in that direction. I don't see the value in it for Christ. This time it was Beth Moore. Shortly after the Iowa caucuses, she went to the streets of social media to express her moral disdain, not just for Donald Trump, but for Republicans who support Donald Trump. She knows what this is going to do, but she does it. Let me read you the statement here. Sobered by last night and trying to practice what people call radical acceptance, not of a presidential candidate, because surprising things happen. Just plainly sobered by the thought that, with other individuals to choose from, masses of people still hail Trump. He's what they actually want in a leader. A bully, a verbally abusive, artfully and purposely divisive bully who has all but left the Republican Party unrecognizable. I don't know, she says. I just can't understand it. Maybe I've got a mental block. But you who are staunch Republicans, why don't you care about your own party more than that? And then she goes on, right after saying this, forgive me. I don't want to be a repeat performance of my 2016 self. I don't. I didn't like her any more than you did. I intend to deal differently with this. I do not intend to get obsessed. I do not intend to lose more relationships. I don't intend to talk about this regularly. As the scriptures say, I want to seek peace and pursue it. I want to be a person of kindness, love, and compassion. But why are we posting all this? Just choose to be that. Sorry, but I've got to move to a place of radical acceptance. It was one thing to cast a vote. By the way, I hate these invented terms that nobody really knows what that means. Just, why do we have to do this? It's not just Beth Moore that does it, but why do we have to do this? She writes, it was one thing to cast a vote for a party's only candidate, reasoning the choice was the lesser of two evils. This is quite another thing. This is wide open-eyed, we want Trump. Anyways, this is where we are. We can complain all we want about our leaders, but in this government by the people, and at the end of the day and at the beginning of November, our candidates are mirrors of ourselves. Okay, I agreed with some of what Beth Moore was saying right there. You heard in the last segment of this MemoPod that I think that Donald Trump has radically transformed the Republican Party, and I don't care for it. I don't. It has nothing to do with winning or losing. It has to do with the principles and what the party values. And moving to a party that values only winning at the cost of principle, I don't think, especially when you don't win, I don't think that's a direction that any sane person should want to go. So I agree with some of what Beth Moore is saying, but there is something that is breathtakingly absent from her remarks. And this is what just torques me off. I searched everywhere in that statement, and it wasn't there. I even went to her timeline, her social media timeline, for a little bit. I started looking through it just to see if maybe I had overlooked it. Doesn't appear that I'm going to find it there either. Do you know what was missing from Beth Moore's statement? What was missing from her post was any balance between a bad Republican candidate, which she believes Donald Trump is, and many of us believe that. There's no balance between writing about that bad Republican candidate while also acknowledging the morally stunted opposition party. I am totally supportive of Christians who are ethically opposed to their brethren's embrace of Donald J. Trump. I get why Beth Moore is flabbergasted and frustrated with Christians who, when given actual alternatives in the Republican Party that have similar values, that they still choose Donald Trump. I get it. And I am supportive of Christians who are ethically opposed to that. And yet I am far more bewildered by Christians who are not even more vehemently opposed to their brethren's embrace or potential embrace of the Democrat Party alternative. Now, maybe Beth Moore isn't saying that. Maybe she thinks this goes without saying, but it doesn't go without saying, because in a two-party political system, the majority of politically engaged Americans, they're going to assume that if you're telling them that one party's de facto nominee is morally disqualified, they are going to assume that you are, at the same time telling them that, you are telling them to support the other party's de facto nominee. And any Christian of conscience has to provide some clarity on that point. You know who did? Christian commentator Allie Beth Stuckey. Love her. And this is what she wrote about all this. This is what she said about Beth Moore's blind spot. She writes, "Where is your lament, Beth Moore? Where is your lament for our current political leadership? The Biden administration is objectively wicked, destructive, oppressive, idolatrous, bloodthirsty, foolish. It actively promotes the butchering of children both in and outside the womb. Its support of abortion and genital mutilation are sufficient reasons to publicly condemn Biden and his cohorts. And yet, at least from what I've seen," Stuckey writes to Beth Moore, "you haven't condemned any of that. The faults in the White House go beyond bullying. You think Donald Trump is a bully, but what's going on in the White House goes beyond bullying. The policies being pushed by the White House," Stuckey writes, "push chaos, death, and decay. Every single city dominated by these progressive policies has been destroyed. Beth, violence, drugs, inescapable poverty. All of those are enabled and exacerbated by laws that have been enacted in the name of progressive compassion. Fine if you want to criticize Trump, but you cannot do so without at the same time, or you shouldn't do so without at the same time morally condemning a far worse and less ethical Democrat Party platform." I wrote this not that long ago. There is no justification for a cowardice or compromise that would suggest some moral equivalence between all candidates, all causes, all parties. You can't just say, well, they're all corrupt and lump them all in together. You can criticize Trump until the cows come home. But if you're doing so on the basis of your Christian convictions, save nothing short of equivalent righteous anger for a more overt evil. And that overt evil is manifested in policies that push chaos, death, and decay. That's what the left is facilitating. And Beth Moore, you have a duty to call that out as well as Donald Trump. And by the way, if you did that, I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm guessing that some of those critics would be less critical if they were seeing it that way instead of the one-sided way. I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well. You can send them my way, peter@peterheck.com. That is peter@peterheck.com. Would love to hear from you there. There's a yawn. You know what that means. I'm getting emails. You can also comment in the comment section below. Make sure you visit our friends at Creative Financial Design. Just thank them for supporting this MemoPod, everything that they do. It's very beneficial for us in order to justify continuing with some of our projects and doing this and pressing on. So please consider clicking that link and going over and telling them thank you and even asking for a potential needs analysis. You can do that because you're going to have a few days until Monday comes around. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you with a memo on Monday. Can't wait.